It's very common when rendering out CPU-intensive projects to render an image sequence instead of a movie clip. After Effects has many features for dealing with still images and image sequences. To import an image sequence, simply double-click the project panel, and let's navigate to an image sequence. And you can find the source files used in this tutorial in the details area of the video workshop. So I have here a sequence of images. These were output from After Effects, and I'll show you how to do that in just a moment. Now we don't have to select all of these files. If it's a true image sequence, I simply select the first one, make sure that the sequence of the type of file format is checked. For example, if I had a TIFF sequence, it would say TIFF sequence here, and I just want to make sure that that's checked. Go ahead and hit open. And then the entire image sequence is brought in as one single footage item. After Effects treats this series of still images like a movie clip. If I were to double click this to open it up in the footage window, then hit the space bar to preview, you'd see that After Effects assembled all of these images into one piece of footage that plays back just like a movie clip. If we drag it to the timeline, same thing. Treats it just like a movie clip. We're going to hit the delete key on the keyboard to get rid of that layer. If we wanted to create an image sequence from our current project, all we have to do is add our project to the render queue, which I'm going to do by selecting the layer style comp here, going up to the composition menu and selecting add to render queue. Once our composition is loaded into our render queue, we can hit this hot text here to open up the output module. From the format dropdown, we can select from a series of sequences. After Effects can output image sequences in many different formats. As a matter of fact, After Effects can output to as many still image formats as video formats. When you see the word sequence here, this is your indication that After Effects will output an image sequence if this option is selected. For now, I'm just going to hit cancel and close the render queue. After Effects also has many tools for dealing with multiple images that are not part of an image sequence. I've imported a folder of still images here, and what I want to do is create a composition with each one of these photos being a separate layer. It's a great way to automate that. I'm going to select the first image, hold Shift and click the bottom image. All the images in between are selected. Now I'm going to drag these to the New Composition button. From this dialog box, we can create a composition or even multiple compositions. In this case, we don't want to select multiple compositions because then After Effects will create a separate composition for each of these images. I just want one composition and I want them all to be one layer in that composition. From here, we can also set how long the duration for each still image will be. Now be aware that this is just for this instant. This doesn't change the default still image duration. I'll show you how to do that in just a moment. From this dialog box, we could also choose to sequence layers. So with the way we have the composition set up now, each JPEG will come in as a separate layer, 2 seconds long, in order. So in other words, the first JPEG will play for 2 seconds, then the next JPEG will play for 2 seconds, and so on. All of that will be automated for me by After Effects. I could add even more pizzazz by checking overlap. From there, I could select a transition. I'm going to select cross dissolve front and back layers. That will make my images automatically fade out and fade in as it goes from image to image. I can set the duration of the transition right here. The default is 1 second. That's fine for now. I'm going to hit OK. And look at this composition. These layers are already ordered and animated to my liking. So I can just hit the space bar to preview this. And notice as one fades out, the other fades in. Push the space bar again to stop. Now I mentioned before that in that dialog box we just looked at, when we change the still image duration, it refers to this composition we are creating only. If you want to change the master still image duration settings, you'll need to go into Preferences. On Windows, that's going to be under the Edit menu. On a Mac, it's going to be under the After Effects menu. Go to Preferences, Import. From here, we can set the default length for still footage. We can set it to be 1 second or something different, or just have it be the length of our composition. So to sum up, After Effects does great with images. However, we do have a little problem because we can't preview image sequences before we import them. Enter Adobe Bridge, which is really the hub of cross-product integration. So I'm going to go to File, Browse to open Adobe Bridge. So I'm going to navigate to that same still image sequence we looked at before. I'm going to click on the first one, shift click on the last one so that they're all selected, and then I'm going to make what's called an image stack. I'm going to go to the Stacks menu at the top in Bridge and select Group as Stack. So kind of like After Effects, Bridge now sees all of those images as one. However, Bridge does allow us some flexibility. Say if I click on the number of images here, it expands and collapses them. You can also go to stacks and ungroup the stack as well. The real impressive thing about this feature, though, is that we could actually play back the image stack. We're going to have a hard time doing that, though, in this current situation. What we need to do is come down here to the bottom of the interface and make the thumbnail bigger. Then we'll be able to play this image sequence back and even scrub through it. So as I hold my mouse over this image sequence, again making sure that it's big enough, I can click and drag this playhead and scrub this image sequence. I can also hit the play button to play it back. If I go to the Stacks menu, I can select a frame rate that I want my frames to play back at. Adobe Bridge can also help us import a wide variety of files. I'm going to go up a folder, reduce the size of my thumbnails, go into the Premiere Pro folder, and this is actually a Premiere Pro project file. But there's such great integration between Premiere Pro and After Effects that After Effects can actually understand an entire Premiere project. So from Bridge, I'm going to right-click on this and select Place in After Effects. I then get the Premiere Pro Importer dialog box. I can select a sequence. Lucky for me, there's only one sequence here. Whether or not we want audio, and hit OK. I'm going to close up this folder. And we can see that this aquo.premiere project comes in just fine. Sequences in Premiere are automatically converted to compositions in After Effects. So I'm going to double-click to open this sequence. We'll see that layers and edits come over, or we can click and drag to trim these layers or make other edits as necessary. A little earlier in this video, when I previewed, I used the spacebar. However, this clip here on the bottom actually has audio with it. Playing back with the spacebar will not get you the audio. For that, you need to create a RAM preview. So I'm going to go to my time controls panel here. If I hit this play button, it's basically the equivalent of hitting the spacebar. To create a RAM preview, I want to hit this button on the far right-hand side. Once those frames are loaded into RAM,
center your focus on the dot in the center and
then the audio will play back as well. The keyboard shortcut for RAM previewing is 0 on the numeric keypad. The integration between all of these products, Bridge, Premiere, After Effects, really is impressive.